Welcome to the Tuesday edition of Anglican Unscripted. This is episode 265. I'm Kevin Carlson.
And I'm George Conger. Today's January 24th, 2017.
Okay, we just survived a nor'easter up here. I don't know if you know anything about New England, but I lived in Wisconsin for a long time. I lived down in Alabama for 4 years. There's something up here in the Northeast that doesn't occur anywhere else in the world, and it's called a nor'easter. And that's basically when there's a system that comes offshore and just circles. It just sticks around here, goes to Massachusetts, goes to New York, goes to Connecticut, just going round and around and around. And because it's reverse patterned, they call it a nor'easter. And it can drop rain, it can drop snow, or last night it dropped sleet. Basically about 10 miles north of here, everybody was inundated with these little sleet balls that look like ball bearings, and it closed the state down everywhere above Highway 15. It's a mess. So we're going to take this opportunity to sit down and tape, because the rest of my week I'm down at March for Life in Washington, D.C., and I won't have time to tape on Friday. George has appointments all week, so this is perfect for him. And we have breaking news, but the news is not breaking because it didn't occur this week, but we got to break it this week. We're talking about a letter from the Archbishop of Canterbury to the Primates that was released last November. And you're going to want to hear about this. George, what's in the letter?
Well, let's back up a bit and see how we actually got the letter and what's going on.
Sure.
Back in November, we heard a letter was released. In fact, we talked to one primate who's a friend of our program, and he said, "You've got to read this letter." I said, "Great. Can I read? Can you give me a copy?" He said, "No. Go do your
own homework." Yeah.
Yeah, you can't copy my paper. Well, the holidays started, Christmas started, and we didn't see this erupt anyplace else, so it was sort of on the back burner until finally I was able to get my hands on a copy, and I read this letter. And we put it up on Anglican ink, and I did a short little analysis of it, and it is quite an extraordinary letter. It's, on the surface, it's just a rather florid party invitation that runs to about 2 pages.
Okay, hold on. Let's back up. What's the party that they're invited to?
They're invited to come to Canterbury next October as primates of the Anglican Communion. It's not a primates meeting.
No.
But it is a meeting of the primates of the Anglican Communion.
So would this really be an instrument of unity thing?
No, it won't be an instrument of unity.
Okay,
no, it will not be an official instrument. They're not meeting as an instrument of unity. Okay. They're not meeting. Basically, the way it is worded is to exclude Foley Beach. Mm-hmm. That's the only reason why it's worded in this way. It's worded so that the Ugandans and the Nigerians can come, because they're not allowed to come according to their General Synod resolutions until the Episcopal Church is kicked out. They can't participate with the Episcopal Church.
Full. Yeah, sure.
But if this is not an instrument of unity, they can go, just like the last time in Canterbury. But it's also worded so that Foley Beach can't come, which he came to the last one, because he's not a primate of the Anglican Communion. He's an Anglican primate, and he's recognized as such by the GAFCON and the Global South primates, but he doesn't have his official membership card.
The Archbishop of Canterbury thinks he's the person who creates the card and makes you Anglican. And in defense of that, hold on. In defense of that, in case you guys didn't know, Anglican means of England. So it makes sense that the Archbishop would say, "Well, I get to say who's English, who's not." To me.
Well, the letter lays out in a deeper level, apart from playing the word games of who can, who cannot come. It lays out in a deeper level Archbishop Welby's understanding of how the world works and how the Anglican Communion works. Mm-hmm. He starts off We having earthquakes in Connecticut along with
No,
nor'easters.
people know this about you. You like to slouch, you like to lean. And so we made an adjustment where George can kind of just lean on his desk and stuff like that. Well, you were leaning here when we started. Now you're leaning here. And I think it's weird to have my face small way back here when yours is right up front because people look at, oh, it's kind of uneven. What was Kevin doing? So now
Yeah,
Kevin
but
has been
I am bigger than you are. Come on.
taller. I'm not sure about wider anymore. I'm having wider issues this fall, but spring's coming. So back to the letter. Well, let's back up. What when you think about the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, what type of letter would he have to write to get 39 primates to come to England in October? He's going to have this type of thing because he wants to go from having primates gatherings to one day having primates meetings as an official instrument of unity. I think this next meeting is kind of a stepping stone into, okay, we can finally do this again. But the stepping
Well,
stone comes with a lot of boats, George.
well, he sets out in a rather ham-fisted way his
Hmm.
understanding of how this whole situation works. He takes a passage from Mark's Gospel where Jesus calms the storms while he and the disciples are in a boat in the Sea of Galilee. And then Archbishop Welby draws from that you've got to be in the boat to be saved because Jesus is in the boat. And then he goes on to say, and the church is the boat. Outside the church, there is no salvation. Which you think about is an extraordinary situation. That's old time Roman Catholicism, no
Yes, it is.
salvation outside the church. This church, well, Justin Welby is telling the primates there's no salvation for you Anglican archbishops outside this church. Oh, and by the way, I'm the captain of this boat, which is the Anglican Commune.
Right. If you
And
want to
so
use if you want to use the Anglican trademark, you got to get my permission first.
so Justin Welby is essentially telling them, sit down, shut up, and do what you're told. Now, he then, after setting his parameters of how we understand these things, he goes off into a tangent about do you know the British cult of Wimbledon? Of heroic losers, of
Sure.
Dunkirk,
Yeah.
of the British don't admire winners. That's why Donald Trump is detested, among other reasons, in Britain. They don't like winners. They like heroic. They tried but failed. That's why the British love Wimbledon because British tennis stars always get knocked off, but they tried really hard.
And that's trying is the game. Winning is not the game.
Well, Justin Welby then cites an English rabbi to
Hmm.
say that leadership is not winning. Leadership is trying really hard and not failing too badly, but it's still failing. Now,
It does sound well. It sounds a lot like it's better to have loved and lost than to have not loved at all.
I guess so, Kevin, but that may work among English public school boys who are 13 years old, but it's not going to work if you're well, one of the things, Justin Welby is approaching this from an English worldview.
Hmm.
He's telling the primates not only is he in charge, but my understanding of reality is going to be dominating here. It's not. It's not we're seeking the best possible outcome, but we want to make sure everybody gets a prize at the end of the day. Um,
No, I agree. We're getting kind of achievement awards. Now the question is, and we talked about this last time when they had the Canterbury meeting in January with the primates gathering. Should the primates go? Should they stay? The reality is, fool me twice, it's my fault. Fool me once, and well, not so bad. What can they achieve by going, George?
well, there are two issues here:
Hmm.
going and achieving, which I believe should be different. You shouldn't lump one with the other. I think they should go and see what goes on. They, but then, not if they don't agree with what's going on, they should say so at the end of the meeting. See, one of the things that happened last time was the meeting started off badly, and then the primates rebelled essentially, and they forced the issue back onto the Episcopal Church, and they got what they wanted. Then the GAFCON primates went home on Thursday night. Well, that left Justin Welby with the Friday press conference with no conservatives with him. So Welby spun the story, spun the whole narrative in a way that was dead contrary to what was actually achieved within the meeting itself. And so here's the distinction. The primates were right to have gone, but they were wrong to have left when they did and handing Justin Welby a blank check of giving him the authority to say what this means. In other words, go, participate, fight for what you believe in, but then don't lean back and say, okay, Josiah Daiwu Faroon as Secretary General of the ACC and Justin Welby as Archbishop of Canterbury will now implement and carry these things out. Guys, if you're going to be primates of the Anglican Communion, don't hand the authority and power over to other people if you don't want to be disappointed.
No, and I agree to the point where if you show up, you're able to control the agenda. The biggest point, the success of the Primates gathering was having the issues finally discussed, was talking about the egregious lawsuits and court actions of the Episcopal Church. To have a face-to-face, this is what's happening. And halfway through the meeting, Minura Nice sat down with Michael Curry and said, let's work this out. And they came up with a solution. The problem was who they gave the task of the solution to. Back in the day in 2008, 2009, you and I saw the primates give the task to Rowan Williams. Didn't work out so well. Now they gave the task to Justin Welby. Maybe it was just a test to see if he could do it. He can't do it now. You want to give that task to somebody else for follow-through. I also agree this should go, George. So you just got to take the agenda.
And they have strength in numbers. They also have the issues. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're able to... there's some fears out there. One of the fears of the African primates is that Welby will use the British Foreign Office against them. Mm-hmm. What are we talking about? Well, the Obama administration and the British government under David Cameron went out of its way to beat up countries in Africa if they didn't sign on to the pro-gay agenda. And, financial aid was withheld from Malawi at one point, and Nigeria is beaten up, and Burundi lives hand to mouth on government assistance from the West. And there's a fear among some of these primates that if they step out of line, Justin Welby will sick the liberal British Foreign Office on them. Now, I don't think that's possible because I think, if anything, the Foreign Office detests the Church of England more than they detest conservative Africans.
We'll have to see.
But there's that fear. They're fearful of stepping out of line. Mm-hmm. So there are all these permutations and things within things. Just look at poor Munir Nice. He's fighting for his life within the Diocese of Egypt to make sure that he holds on to his properties and the Presbyterians don't grab him from him. And it's good for him to have the Church of England on his side. He needs that because the British still try to exercise influence in Egypt. So, he's got to balance that. How much can I get versus how hard can I push? So all of these calculations are taking place. But at the end of the day, if they act in unison, then they'll be able to win. It's when Welby peels them off one by one that they get rolled.
Well, he's been trying to do this, divide and conquer. And when you do divide and conquer, sometimes you have limited success. We've seen it before. Keep this in your prayers. George and I need to sign off and do our regular duties right now. I'm Kevin Carlson.
And I'm George Conger. And you've been watching episode 265 of Anglican Unscripted.
We'll work it out. 3, 2. We'll get your eyes closed and your thumb in your mouth. We can't start the episode like that.
It's not that they